So our remote client is the laptop's view, and I'll pull that over. So our laptop view is, quite a bit different than our phones. Phones and laptops, again, remote client is our laptop view, and then we have our phones for our Rover or Dorothy Mobile. When we look at remote client, we always want to make sure that we're doing a sync. So on our screen here, you can see at the very top, every day you'll be using the sync multiple times in a day. There are other sync options. We don't have to always sync patients, entirely on this list and all of our schedule, our in-basket tasks, and our admin tasks. We could potentially come over here under sync options and do smaller syncs. I'm going to start out with a large sync here, and we'll go ahead and sync all of our patients as well as it syncs our in-basket and then our admin. So when we look at this sync, if you'll notice down here in the middle of my screen, you guys can see down here in the lower portion, it lets you know how your sync is progressing. So that's very important to keep in mind. As you start to navigate through here, you'll notice a lot of these patients don't say sync yet. When the patient is synced, you'll notice that I have a little sync icon here, which will allow me to sync my patient. And then up here in my thumbnail underneath my patient here, right above my thumbnail, I can sync that patient as well. So we're going to also focus in on this Sebastian patient today. In the content of today, is nursing, but the functionality is the same for PT, OT, and ST that we'll show you today and demonstrate. Underneath the update directions, this is the important area where we can actually, place in patient visit alerts. So this could be put away the large dog, patient has dialysis, call the neighbor, call the daughter. This patient needs to have the daughter called. We'll go ahead and fix that little typo and then accept. So you can modify that. That is dynamic, that can change. So that update directions, then you'll see that information on your Rover device on the patient summary. You'll also see that information down here. And in my scheduling bubble, when I get into schedule my patients out, now on my screen, I came into my TBD screen. I'm going to switch this over to my 60. And then I like to just see my today for today. Once my day is here, I'll go ahead and do one day for 60-minute increments. And you'll notice that I have a patient here. We have Sebastian. If I hover over, you'll also see that information here. So it says directions, call daughter Jennifer, to schedule appointments. So very important to take in this information here. As we all know, it's sometimes difficult to get a hold of patients. Maybe the patient likes a text or something. So that's good to place so that we can see those instructions. You'll see I have a few other patients scheduled out. If I want to pull a patient down and drop them off, maybe I have spoke with Diana today or yesterday afternoon, and I want to pull Diana down into this 3 p.m. slot. Now, your patients can be scheduled out ahead of time as well. So you can move ahead of time, and I'll go into my next day, and maybe I see Ruth all the time at 1 p.m. I can drag Ruth down. I'm on the 18th, so you can see view the schedules much further in advance. Then we'll take a look over here. I can go into a 3-day view if I wanted to, and then if you hover over the patient, you'll always get their full name. The issue with having TBDs up top, they get kind of jammed in here, so you'll want to hover over them to discover the patient, and then that's the patient maybe that I want to pull down in that time slot on that day. So you can always pull patients where you want ahead of time, and then that'll set your schedule out. So what I'd like to do though is you'd have to go back and you need to sync on all those cases. You'd have to sync either your schedule, or you would have to sync those individual patients in order for that to go back to hyperdrive at the office or hyperspace. So you want to make sure you're syncing all day, and your phone is the same way. So if you think about when you sync, you want to make sure that you're syncing your phone and then syncing remote client, and then maybe if you do something in remote client, then sync your phone. You see how that works. So that way we can receive all the information from our devices that are out there in the field. So I actually am on a phone here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and sync over my rover just to make sure that I have everything over here before we get started. So I have this Sebastian patient, and I'm going to go in. We'll take a look at Sebastian's chart. So when we click on Sebastian, you'll notice that Sebastian appears in your thumbnail reports here. So you can see who the care team is, caring with the patient. And right now it looks to me like everybody's involved with the patient and nobody has end dates or has discharged that patient. So you can see information. Of course, there's some laboratory information. So one of the ways to get to know your patients is actually to go look into more of the chart. So if we go to this area, we can go, there's two areas that you can go to. You can go to reports and chart review. But let's go into chart review first and just take a peek around. So when we get into chart review, it's going to bring over some information that's from the hospital system, from their encounters that maybe they've had. This was from a doctor's office visit. So this patient doesn't have very many encounters in Epic, but you would see information in here probably from cancer centers, outpatient rehab centers. You can see information in here from all the different centers that this patient may has crossed over in the Epic platforms. You'll start to see a lot of information. You'll also see some episodes. You'll see current episodes. They have past episodes in here as well. So that's really, really nice for looking at like a previous episode. And then referrals. Why is this patient coming to us? So this is like the hot spot. So when you want to know more about patients, coming over, you're going to do an admission or an evaluation, you want to go into your referrals. And that referrals is going to provide you with these orders. And if I go ahead and click on this one, you'll see that I'll open this up and you can, scroll down through it and you'll see all this information. You got diagnoses in here and the referral notes that come from the provider. And then down below, intake is going to fill out a questionnaire. Now, it's not going to take on the same, look as you guys are used to with the clinical comment intake note, but you most certainly will, have information in here that'll be crucial to, how we manage patients. So the questionnaire is filled out, by intake, and it kind of, answers some important referral information for us. So that's going to be an area you want to frequent, when you go into get to know a patient. And then, of course, we have all these other areas. If there's a header here, then there's imaging. If there's no imaging, there's not going to be a header for imaging. So you'll be able to review those different parts of the chart. Now, under reports, under my tasks over here, you can see that this information here brings over all kinds of reports. So here I have a discharge summary. So you can see their most recent inpatient. This one doesn't have an inpatient, event. So these reports, there's some referral orders, and you can go down through those. We saw those in that other chart review as well. So this is another good area to go to, see what's going on with your patient. When you get into the rest of the chart, if you go into, we're probably not going to see anything in here. So flow sheets from home health care do not exist yet. This patient hasn't been admitted, but then you'll see that information start to appear in here in your flow sheets and vital signs in here as well. So you can click on this and then you can see which flow sheets are available for our patient. So we'll go with the vitals and see if we find anything, and we don't have anything listed yet for this patient. So then, when we look at the contacts, this is going to be our visits. So currently this patient hasn't had any, but I'll bounce down into meds, and these are the medications that are currently not on the plan of care. So we'll touch on these in a little bit. This is medications that the patient is found to have been on across, several of our, Epic platforms, and wherever the patient receives care, the medications will flow into here, making our MedRec, extremely much more efficient. It's going to give us the patient's medication, their dosage, why they should take it. Sometimes providers start a patient on a medication, and then our lexicomp or tells us, oh, the patient should take us for their blood pressure, and then the doc's like, oh no, they're taking it for their kidneys. So those types of things, so we don't tell the patient the wrong information. So is really going to be concise for us. At the very top, we want to, when we're seeing our patients, we want to go and review our medications. This is the button you'll select, and you'll notice when I click on the review button, that puts it in here, that I reviewed that at 7:43 this morning. So that's our med review, where we're going to go in on each one of our visits and go ahead and document that piece. Then we have allergies too. This patient here has allergy to latex, and we can mark that as reviewed as well. So we review the allergies with the patient, and again, it updates that information here. DME supplies, or the DME that's on the patient's plan of care. This patient doesn't have any. We could, put one in if we would like. Just quickly, you can see that you can document, that this patient has a cane output, that this started a couple weeks ago. So like T-14 will give us our end date. We'll leave that open. We're not going to place this on an order. This is an admission patient. Again, if we wanted to, we'll accept that. Add in another patient DME. There's going to be wound care in here. You'll see this for the patients that are on wound care. It's no different than the current ones that you place in. So if I want to put in that this patient has some sort of gauze, I can place that in there as well. And then again, we can go down here and say, maybe this is just T-2. They've had maybe an orthopedic surgery or something. And so you can see that that's how we can put things onto the plan of care, for DME supplies. When we look at care plan, this patient hasn't had, their admission completed yet. But if I want to see something in the patient's visit, most certainly I'll need to, place in a template. So this is where our orders stem from. When you place care plan, you'll see the care plan orders will appear in here. So currently, this is an order that the doctor has given us for home health care. These care plan, this is where we're going to update orders. So if you get lab work, you got to do some Plerex, or you got to do, maybe you're going to do some rehab, for our patient, and set up, all your interventions with home exercise programs and weakness, strategies. All that information is going to be applied under our templates. So for your discipline, again, this is, nursing for today, but you want to make for certain, that you're picking your problem. You can modify all these, interventions. You can select interventions, and this could be, again, any content. Maybe don't pay attention that it just says edema and to decrease edema, but you can imagine this could be your problem related to your discipline, as well as your goal, and then your intervention, to accomplish those. And then you can pick, home safety, whatever you'd like. If the patient had, some sort of nursing need or PT need, you just want to make sure that you're, addressing those. Now, the interesting thing is when you place those in, of course, they'll have to, continue in to modify anything that has a red stop sign. So when we get into that area, we'll go to this and box, and you can click in any box and in field box and hit the F2 at the top of your screen. You see how it takes me to those. I'm hitting F2 as we go, and you can see it's taking me into, those locations to fill out. So maybe I do that and I hit my F2 again, and then maybe I can document, 4+, whoops, I gotta hit the plus sign. And okay, so you can see that, when we take a look at home safety, we have to, edit and put something in here. So I'm going to go ahead and just make it a little bit quicker, and I'm going to do some backspaces so we can move along and get into some other areas for documentation. Here, I'm going to again hit my F2, and this is, when you hit your F2, it bounces you in. For the blue, you can left click once and twice if you need both of these. Blue, you can pick multiples, and then you right click and it pops in. Now yellow, for my goal, maybe I want to pick, I can only pick one for yellow. Of course, if I pick an asterisk, I'll have to modify that. Now right click and it sticks, but then now maybe I just want to have 2 visits. So you can see how that is easily, accomplished. Same thing, with your safety deficit here. When you get into this box, you'll notice that, if you click anywhere in the box and hit F2, it'll carry you to where you might be missing one of those asterisks. So go ahead and accept that as well. Now, now that we've taken a look at the care plan, let's go bounce over and see if we can get into our visit here. So get to our right day. And we're going to go into Sebastian here. Right from that, open my visit. Now, if Sebastian has a certification period, you're familiar with that, you can go ahead and click on accept. What we're going to do now is cover documentation that kind of supports just visit documentation. This is going to be available. This is the visit documentation that the navigation is going to be for all disciplines: PT, PTAs, OT, OTAs, STs, MSW, LPNs, RNs. Okay, this is all of us. And if I forgot anybody, sorry, but I just want to make for certain that we're looking at functionality here today. So be very mindful, of alerts. Alerts are going to come to you automatically. And just so you guys are aware, when we create home health aid frequencies, you will get an alert. You don't have to put in buddy codes, put reminders, and put alerts in. They automatically say, hey, in 14 days, this aide needs a supervisory visit on this date. So that'll be one of the alerts that you see. Now, this one here, a patient has an upcoming birthday. Well, how nice is that? And then the patient needs a recertification. So you start to see these alerts. It's very important to take in those. And then when we look at admin times, you'll notice it says a little phone here. And the little phone under notes. So this information was started, this came over from my Rover device. So I actually went to this patient's home and started my transit. Notice this is my first visit of the day. So, we don't get paid mileage from that first visit of the day over to see our patient. So I entered in a 0, and the override reason was for first visit mileage override. Now, once we have that information from Rover, I synced it over. But the remote client's asking me, hey, Dave, do you know if you synced everything? I want you to, if you hit unlock, and it's going to say, do you want to unlock all mobile forms? You're going to say, yeah, because we do want to, if we've been documenting on our phone, we want to be able to adjust these forms. So we'll say yes. And then it says, you should sync just to make sure you got the most up-to-date information. So that goes back kind of how we started our day, in talking about sync. So let's just go ahead and sync right from that screen. And it's going to sync my patient, from Rover over here, or from, actually Rover goes to hyperdrive, hyperspace, and then you have that information flowing down over in here, So very important. You see this little phone icon. That means you better sync. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at now. We're going to talk about communication a little bit. And this is an admission patient. It could be an eval patient. It could be some important, information you want to share and document in the patient's chart. So we're going to look at documentation in the patient's chart. So, and how we can communicate that information. So under the add or remove forms, this is our forms navigator right here. So as we go down this list, I would look and, for forms that I want to document on. So if I need to add something in, I'm going to add or remove forms. And this is where I'm going to go in. I actually have done some wound documentation, so I'm going to pull that form over. If I always want to see it on every visit, so you got a PT orthopedic admission, you want to look at this knee incision every visit, you'll hit yes. And then we'll hit, we can hit accept. My forms navigator also, I want to pull in a communication. My communication is going to, be that I did this admission today, but maybe it's this patient has an issue with their incision line. So once you pull forms in, usually they'll start to exist down towards the bottom. So you'll notice that my wound form and my communication form came in down here. So what I want to show you is this communication form. When I pulled this in, I can talk about, things, clinically, and I can then share this information with my care team. Now, if all you did was, you completed an admission, then, you might want to just let PT know, OT know, or maybe your PT and you're doing the admission, you want to let, OT know that you did this orthopedic admission. You want to make for certain that you communicate that. So you can do that by entering in, you can put in information. Maybe this is, admit, topic discussed, or maybe it's ortho admit. So then, if you want to talk about, the patient was there and maybe, so you have the self and then, maybe you had the son there too as well. You could have had child in as well. So you don't really need to populate this information. When you get to this communication details, maybe this is admit completed, plan, to see for, 6 visits. Okay. And then if there's any follow-up information, maybe you want to, express to those individuals. Now, you don't have to send this information. Okay. This information can just be part of the patient's medical record, but this is how you send it. You'll go back up to case communication. And when we get into there, this is where you're going to look at doing a new case communication. Now, this is part of the patient's chart, but it does not go to my chart. Okay. So take note, this you can route to your care team. I'm not going to send it to, the doctor, but maybe I'm going to let the PT know. So I'll hit my little quick button here, that I did the admit completed, and that way they'll get this. Now they're going to receive this in an in-basket message. So what I wanted to share with you is this is how you can communicate clinical information and keep it in the patient's record. The other two ways, in-basket and secure chat, they can be associated to a patient, but do not become part of the patient's record. That's really key. If you want something to be in the patient's medical record, you don't want to use in-basket and secure chat. You need to add in a case communication form so that way you can share that clinical information and document it as patients as part of their chart. We don't need to save this as a note. This would send it over to the My Chart. We don't need to do that. We'll just go ahead and accept. So it says not sent. Now this is not sent, meaning because we didn't sync yet. But once we sync our visit, this information will go over to whoever I selected, and I selected the code of the PT. So then they'll take a peek at our wound form. Now again, this is the wound that I generated over on my rover, so it flows in here as well. I can continue to document that to support, what I'd like to do for my patient. So make for certain, when you're going down through, it's probably a good idea to start at the top and then work your way down. All the questions that have been answered previously, remember we always have, this could be a urinary assessment. If there's been medication assessments, we could also have that information, sitting in here as well. From previous encounters, of course, this is my first encounter. I do not have anything. And then if it's an OASIS question, you have guidance here. So you'll see my evaluate OASIS once this visit is complete, because it's an admission. You can click this button here and it's going to give you the SHP, guidance and any recommendations for your visit once you complete that. You will receive a warning on sign out if you haven't evaluated your OASIS on any OASIS encounters. It's just a warning, but we definitely do advise that you guys would evaluate and take a look at the evaluation assessment. So let's take a look at a couple other things before we part today. And one of the other things, in our visit, we need to close this out. So I'm going to finish this later. I can go ahead and hit my finish later, and then that'll take me out. Now, I see here I have my visit. I can take a look at my visit here. And if I wanted to get back into it, you could actually go, through the schedule and click on your visit here. If I'm still, in this area, I can click in this visit, or I can right click on it and, hit my edit and get back into it. So there's a couple different ways, to do things in Epic. Now let's take a look at admin. So our admin, when we're looking at admin, now I can see I did a lab drop here. I went 12 miles. So it looks to me like I time traveled a little bit here today. So, I went to do this admission already, and now I did my lab drop after that admission. So you can see, if you want to put in admin info from this screen, you can, if you do like a Zoom meeting, you don't need mileage capture or anything like that. It is highly advisable you do all your visit, transit times and your lab drops or any of your non-visit activities, meetings. You maybe go to a rehab forum. You always want to put those in from Rover because there's transit times and it'll automatically calculate your mileage unless you override it like I did with this one. So be for certain, that you're entering in every transit time and starting times from Rover. And then in basket, take a peek there. You see I got some verbal orders that have come back in my in basket. And when you click on those, now the functionality of in basket is, remember, this is like email. This can be process related. It doesn't necessarily have to be, information that are associating to a patient. It could be, maybe we have 3 or 4 people. Maybe we have a pool. Hey, patient needs seen tomorrow. I did an on-call visit. Patient needs a PT, revisit tomorrow, ASAP. Those types of things. You could attach a patient. Again, it's not part of the patient's record. I can read these. This one in particular gives me the provider declined this order. Now, of course, I would need to go address that. I'm just going to mark this as done and refresh, and I'll keep that from unclogging here. Now, your secure chat is not visible, just for the record, from remote client. So secure chat is the phone functionality. That's Doc Halo. Remember, Doc Halo is going away on the 30th, which is Saturday, 5 a.m. So Doc Halo is, you're going to utilize secure chat for all your messaging. And Doc Halo is not significant to a patient, and neither is secure chat. You'll be able to utilize secure chat. So you'll need to be, embracing Epic the first day that you work. So this is not something that, oh, I don't have any patients today in Epic. I have all 8 CHP cases. Well, you'll have to go ahead and, place in, open your Epic, Rover phone and communicate, and look for those notifications on secure chat. That is taking over our Doc Halos. So just to be aware of that. And then I'm going to just go back into, my schedule here. And again, as you, navigate through your schedule, you'll want to adjust, your times and your days and so forth. Jump back to my patients list. And then I'm going to take a look at my slide here. And we've covered all the topics, that we needed to cover here for this morning. And again, I want to, send a gratitude and appreciation out to you folks for working so hard and engaging in this Epic journey. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And if you need anything, you can reach out. Doc Halo still is working, and then email as well. Your managers, great resources. CCC's great resources. Everybody is, championing this change, from the office physicians all the way down through. So we're ready to support you guys, and there'll be more of these to follow. We're going to start to gear up. You'll see a lot more information, flooding your way. Please check your emails every day. Very important. If you can check it morning and afternoon. Lastly, I just want you guys to know that we're here to support you, and have a great day.